Well, what's up again there, guys? Brian here at 3TR here to share with you another standard movie review. This time I'll be giving you my initial thoughts on the newest installment of video game-based movies, and we have this time the popular franchise Warcraft. Now, I'm not really going to go into actually stars in this movie because it's a really star-studded cast, but it is directed by Duncan Jones, who is a clear fan of this franchise, the gaming franchise, I would say. And in terms of the premise of the story, you pretty much have two groups of individuals. You have orcs on one side, and you've got humans on another. Now, apparently the orcs want to come over to the human world because their world's been destroyed, and so they open this portal, and then a bunch of orcs come through, and they gotta take over, and then they gotta do some things in order to open the portal again, bring more orcs so they can take over the land. But while that's happening, you got these humans here, and they're trying to hold the orcs off, and then there's this half-breed, and as you can tell, I'm kind of going all over the place because in terms of the plot, that's really all I can structurally put together as for what this movie is about. Now I'm going to go into what I really liked about the film. I think that the visuals, for the most part, are good. When it is simply just the orcs, it is done masterfully. They did a lot of work on really bringing out the expression in the orcs and bringing them a lot of depth in their character. I would say that my favorite character in the movie was probably the head good orc, I would say. His name starts with a D, I think, and he was just an overall nice guy who just wanted to protect his family and his clan and didn't necessarily want to start any fights of anybody. So that's someone I could easily get behind. I also thought there was a lot of great acting from pretty much everyone in the cast. Everyone did a solid job in their performances. However, I think that they were working with material that I think they should have had a little bit more fun with. I mean, I understand that the situation of the story is serious, but, you know, it would have been nice to add in a little humor, which everyone was taking this movie just really way too seriously to the point where it was kind of joyless. Now, the problem that I have with this movie is I think the same problem that a lot of moviegoers who aren't fans of this franchise are going to have, and that is it is incredibly frustrating and difficult to follow. As I was watching this film, I kept getting the idea that there was either giant sections of this movie that were taken out, or there is this large lore that you really have to know in order to understand. Now, if anyone who's going into this movie is already a fan of the Warcraft franchise and knows lore very well, then I think this is going to be a movie you're going to very much enjoy. But for someone like me who, I'll admit, I did play the very first Warcraft, Human vs. Orcs, back in the mid-90s when it came out when I was a kid. But it's been years since I've actually played the game, but I do recall actually enjoying it. But I don't really know anything about the lore. And as I was watching this movie, events and characters were showing it that I simply didn't know. And it got to the point where the plot was getting so confusing that it was just very difficult to follow. And it wasn't because I wasn't paying attention, because when it comes to movies like this that you have to pay attention, I'm locked on the screen. I'm not looking left or right. I'm trying to follow this as best I can. But I get the feeling that there's just too much information not being told to me for me to really understand what is going on. And it made it very disjointed. And it got to the point where I just didn't care anymore. I didn't care about the action. I kind of started to not care about the characters. And I don't even care if they decide to make a sequel to this, which, if the box office has shown anything, it's really not doing very well here in the States. Though it is doing very well in China, which means that China might actually end up saving this movie franchise if it does decide to get a sequel. Overall, I don't think that Warcraft is a bad movie. However, I do think that it is a bad movie for anyone who is not already a fan. This seems to be the type of movie that I don't think should have been released in theaters, and it should have just direct to Blu-ray. This fits in the line of movies like the first two animated Resident Evil movies, Degeneration and Damnation, which, if you're a fan of this franchise, you will be able to jump in immediately. And I think that Warcraft falls into that category. But because it does that, it makes it very, very hard for anyone who is not a fan to get invested. And because of that, it really kind of hurts anyone who is not a fan of this movie, and it makes it very difficult to follow. If I had to give Warcraft a rating, I'm just going to give it a C-, strictly because of its brilliant and well-handled visuals and the acting across the board. But apart from that, anything involving the action or the story or anything that really matters to a film just didn't work for me because I'm just not a fan. But I don't think that's really my fault. If you like this movie review, feel free to like, comment down below, and please subscribe. Check me in my future movie reviews. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I will see you next time.